Well, Marvel fans, I thought we already had the craziest plot leak in all of comic book movie history when it came to Deadpool 3. And all of a sudden, we've got another one. And I gotta say, it's pretty freaking crazy. It might just be more insane than the first Deadpool 3 plot leak that we recently talked about. And a lot of people are believing this one instead of the other one. What's that about? Don't worry, I'm gonna break it all down for you. We'll talk about the new plot leak. We'll talk about why people believe it, and then I'll give you my take on which one of these plot leaks I think is true. So smash a freaking like on this video and let's begin. Okay, so this new one is coming out from 4chan just like the one before. And this one almost seems like it's a response to the first leak. Now, I just did a video on the first Deadpool 3 leak. If you want to check that out, I just did the video, but the TLDR on that is that you're going to see Deadpool and Wolverine go into a universe where Magneto has taken over the world. They're supposed to be pulling from the Ultimatum comic book run that was out in the Marvel Ultimates book. And that's really freaking awesome. It's crazy to see Ian McKellen Magneto being the conqueror of Earth. Holy shit, that's awesome. But this new leak begins by literally saying that certain things that people are talking about are incorrect, referring to the leak that we just referenced. In the new leak, it says the main initiative of Deadpool 3 is to introduce variants of X-Men that will then appear in Secret Wars. So they want to introduce new and different versions of the X-Men, the Fox X-Men characters, right? This idea of variants in the MCU. And then they want those variants that are introduced in Deadpool 3 to later show up in Secret Wars. Apparently, they're going to do exactly what they did to Loki with the TVA taking him out of a timeline and then using him to go clean up other timelines. So this is where this plot leak very much departs from the other leak. It says here, Deadpool and Wolverine are actually going to recruit Magneto and Charles and some of the X-Men, and then they're going to go take on the true villains of the movie, which are Mojo and Spiral. And they say very clearly that this is not going to be Deadpool kills the X-Men. The plot leak then says you're going to get a really awesome Wolverine versus Wolverine fight, and then the movie is going to end with an incursion, which will see a lot of these different X-Men, including Deadpool and Wolverine, jump into the 616 universe, and then presumably they will be set up to appear in Secret Wars from there. And so why do people believe this plot leak instead of the other one? Well, I think there's a couple of different reasons. Number one, the first plot leak just seems so freaking fanboyish and crazy. Again, when I first heard that plot leak, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it until I started to put together some of the other evidence that's out there, which again is in that video that I recently published. And this idea with Mojo World, with bringing in different versions of the X-Men, with recruiting Charles Xavier and Magneto to help, yeah, that kind of seems like a more likely scenario for a Marvel Studios movie. There's also this idea that there is going to be a female antagonist in Deadpool 3. So the idea of Spiral, who's this crazy mutant with a bunch of different arms and can open up these crazy portals. I mean, yeah, a character like that could fit for the female antagonist that we are supposed to be getting. A long-standing rumor there was that the female antagonist was actually going to be Danger, but I think that may have come from a very, very early idea and might not actually be in the script now. Regardless of all that, the main point here is that because there is actual evidence from very reliable sources that you're going to have a female antagonist, this Spiral character, the connection to Mojo and Mojo World, seems way more likely for fans. But I gotta tell you, I personally do not believe this plot leak. Now, part of the reason is because I'm really convinced that the Ultimatum and the evil version of Magneto taking over the world, that plot leak is actually real. Like, I was really convinced of that. And so part of the reason that I don't believe this new plot leak is, well, frankly, I'm kind of attached to the idea of like me figuring out this crazy thing and being like, oh no, wow, this leak's actually real. But also, there's a lot of questions with this new leak. Like, I've never seen a leak come out and claim that another leak is wrong and actually pointedly explain what in that other leak was incorrect. That's usually not how this works. How it works is that people just drop the info that they have. I also think it's super weird that they say they're going to do exactly what they did with Loki with the TVA. That's just not true. Like, there's no way that's real, because there's no way that there's another Deadpool out there that's taking over all of the different TVAs in the way that Sylvie was attempting to do in Loki season 1. Like, come on, man. How many crazy multiversal threads are going to be out there from variants of characters that we already know? And in fact, if we're to believe He Who Remains at the end of Loki season 1, the whole thing was kind of preordained. The idea of Sylvie and Loki confronting him at the end of time was something that he had more or less planned. So there's no way it's the same thing as what happened in the Loki series. Now, I could see a scenario in which they do recruit Deadpool to help them out to maybe destroy another timeline, but I imagine that's just because he's an incredibly good mercenary, really resilient, he can't really die. I just really don't think they're gonna redo Loki, the plot, with Deadpool. Now, there's also a line in here about like recruiting Magneto and Charles Xavier to go and fight with them. And look, that sounds freaking awesome. But I mean, come on, it's a Deadpool movie. And one of the big ideas here is getting Hugh Jackman back to be Wolverine. And Wolverine and Deadpool together, that's a big part of the draw. As soon as you bring in all of the rest of the X-Men, then it's not really a Deadpool movie. And I know what you're saying out there. You're like, wait a minute, Josh, but that's going to be in the other plot league. So Magneto and the X-Men and everybody taking over, I mean, either way, you're going to be getting the X-Men. So what's the difference? Well, to me, the big difference is if you have a place where you visit and there's like some explanation of like past battles with the Avengers, there's some of the X-Men that we recognize, but they're villainous, that takes up way less of the actual story time than if they would be there with the heroes. If you recruit the freaking X-Men with Deadpool and Wolverine and they go fight Mojo and Spiral in Mojo World, you're gonna have so many different scenes with Xavier and with Magneto, and I'm sorry, when you have those two characters together, especially Ian McKellen and Sir Patrick Stewart again, which, you know, we would assume it would be that's just gonna like take away all of the shine and focus from Wolverine and Deadpool. I just can't see them going that way just on a simple writing principle. And the last reason I don't believe this plot leak is this idea that there's going to be an incursion and then they're all going to jump in at 616. I don't think that's what's going to happen, because if that did happen, then the Fox X-Men will be in the MCU before we even get to the Kang Dynasty, right? And I personally believe the Kang Dynasty is mostly going to focus on the Avengers that we've established in Phase 4 and some of the Avengers that have survived through the Infinity Saga. And that group of Avengers is going to fight up against Kang, and then when they are defeated, we will then see them hop into the multiverse and recruit the different heroes from like the Fox X-Men, the Sony Spider-Man, you know, maybe even other crazy Marvel projects from back in the day. That is apparently a big part of what they want to do in the actual Secret Wars movie. We've heard that this will be very similar to what you get in Endgame when you have the time heist, this nostalgic trip to the past where you're bringing things back to fight an ultimate villain in the present. Well, you can do that with the Fox movies, you know, the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. You can do that with the different Sony movies. We can go back to really nostalgic points throughout Marvel's overall catalog. That's a big part of the draw. And so if this leak is true, it sort of would avoid all of that, at least for a lot of those Fox X-Men characters. Now, I will say it is possible this leak is real, and I think the thing to keep in mind here is either way, it seems like Ian McKellen Magneto going to be a big part of Deadpool 3. That really does seem to be established. But I'm leaning on him actually being the ruler of Earth, not having a ton of screen time, us meeting him maybe in the middle of the movie, and maybe him only being one part of what Deadpool and Wolverine are actually trying to accomplish when they're going throughout the multiverse. Either way, this movie sounds absolutely insane. It's also crazy it's supposed to come out next friggin' year. I cannot personally wait for it. So let me know what you think about this plot leak and the other plot leak in the comment section below, and smash a freaking like on this video if you are hyped up for Deadpool 3.